From UFOs to ghost and psychic powers, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now and learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. The term whistleblower is generally thought to come from the practice of referees or police officers who would blow a whistle to draw attention to a crime or other violation of the rules. Although the term whistleblower is a relatively recent invention, the actual practice of whistleblowing in the US predates the use of this word. For example, in the 1930s, General Smedley Butler was contacted by wealthy American business interests who allegedly wanted to overthrow President Roosevelt and create a fascist government. They must have underestimated Butler's patriotism because he blew the proverbial whistle, informing Congress and the American public of what came to be known as the business plot. By thwarting the conspiracy, Butler may have saved the US as we know it. But what happened next? Congress launched an investigation into the matter, but the people Butler claimed were responsible were never punished, despite the strong circumstantial evidence against them. Butler died a number of years later, in 1940, dissatisfied that he had prevented a coup but failed to punish the people responsible. Here's where it gets crazy. Butler was far from the first whistleblower in history, and his story ended better than that of many others. Butler's social position protected him more than the average person. It's plausible that a less prominent individual would simply have been discredited or assassinated. This isn't to say that the US does not legally provide for whistleblowers. In fact, the first law designed to protect and reward whistleblowers was passed in 1863. The False Claims Act was designed to protect Civil War-era whistleblowers who reported corruption on the part of federal contractors. There have been numerous other laws enacted, such as the Lloyd-La Follette Act of 1912, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, and others. Based on the legislative history, it is reasonable to assume that the US government understands the effectiveness of whistleblowers. Yet historically, these laws haven't completely protected whistleblowers, and consequences for leaking secrets can be much worse in other countries. Consider the corporate whistleblower Stanley Adams, who in 1973 leaked knowledge of price fixing. The European Economic Community passed Adams' name on to his employers, who charged him with espionage and theft. While Adams was held for months in a Swiss jail, his wife committed suicide. Consider another example, Mordecai Vanunu, who spent more than 17 years in an Israeli prison for leaking the country's secret nuclear weapons program to the British press. Vanunu is still not allowed to leave Israel and is currently being prosecuted for speaking with foreign journalists. To their supporters, these men have fallen prey to whistleblower retaliation, a process through which a government or private entity punishes the whistleblower for leaking secrets. As a result, the global situation for whistleblowers has always been extremely hazardous, often resulting in unemployment, public scorn, or personal tragedy. And don't forget that one person's whistleblower is often another person's traitor. In present times, this dichotomy is even more pronounced. Some governments claim that these new whistleblowers are not like their conscientious predecessors, but are instead creating threats to national security. Yet to opponents of the status quo, these governments are only scrambling for justifications and trying to prevent the growth of whistleblowing communities. After all, in the age of the internet, it's becoming easier and easier to learn something they don't want you to know. Tune in next week as we take a look at the future of whistleblowers.